Good morning and welcome to Algebra 1 for Monday, June 1st. We're almost there. So, to get us to the end of the school year, this week we're going to have a quiz on how many solutions there will be using the discriminant and how we actually solve a quadratic problem using the quadratic formula. Toward that end, I'm going to give you guys a little reminder of what we're doing. That's what today's lesson is all about. So the first three questions are, how many solutions will there be? You're going to use the discriminant to figure it out. So number one, y equals negative x squared plus 3x plus 2. And then there's number two, y equals 2x squared minus 8x plus 10. And then there's number three, y equals x squared plus 4x plus 4. So in these three questions, all I want you to do is tell me how many solutions there will be using the discriminant. Pause the video and solve the problems, and then play the video that remains to see the solutions. Please pause now. All right. So let's get to the solutions. How do we find the discriminant? Well, it's b squared minus 4ac. So identify the ABCs if you still need to. The a in number one is negative 1, the b is positive 3, and the c is positive 2. So far, so good? Okay. b squared minus 4ac. Write it down if you have to. You don't have to write it every time, but if you want to write it right now, by all means do so. b squared is 3 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times 2. 3 squared is 9. What I've noticed on the homework assignments is the issues come in with the negatives, all right? When you're multiplying here, which you are, two negatives make a positive. That's already positive, so the symbol is plus. Now, 4 times 1 times 2, well, that's 8. And that's an answer of 17. So the question is, how many solutions will there be? 17 is a positive number. So the answer I'm looking for is that there are two solutions. Remember, when you're using the discriminant to figure out how many solutions there will be, the answer I'm looking for is not the number that the discriminant is, it's what the number tells you. A positive discriminant tells you that there will be two solutions. Moving on to number two. I'm going to identify again A. A is 2, B is negative 8, and C is 10. B squared is negative 8 squared. Please remember and look, I'm putting the negative 8 in parentheses. There's a really good reason. If you use a calculator and you type in negative 8 squared, it's going to say negative 64, which is not right, because the negative 8 itself is being squared. Order of operations, the calculator is paying attention to it. That's negative 8 squared. And that's why it's telling you negative 64. It's wrong. Don't do that. Use parentheses around the negative number. B squared minus 4 times A, which is 2, times C, which is 10. Negative 8 squared is positive 64. A negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 2 is 8, times 10 is 80. 64 minus 80 is negative 16. So the discriminant's value is negative 16. What does it tell you? It tells you that there is no solution. Because when the discriminant is negative, there's no solution in the real number system, because there's no square root of a negative number, and the discriminant lives under the square root. So when you take the square root of a negative number, the calculator tells you error, non-real answer, or something to that effect, because there really is no answer. And for number 3, I'm going to jump right into b squared minus 4ac without even doing my notations. B squared, that's 4 squared, minus 4 times a, that's the number 1, times c, that's the number 4. 4 squared is 16. Negative 4 times 1 times 4 is minus 16. That's an answer of 0. So how many solutions are there? When the discriminant is 0, there is one solution. Okay? So those are our first 3 prompts to remember what we were doing last week. Again, using the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, to figure out how many solutions there will be when we solve the quadratic equation we've been given. All right, these are not solutions. These are supplemental kind of questions. So the next three will be to actually solve a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. Because these take a little bit more space, let's just do them one at a time. And again, once I put it up here, it would be great if you could pause the video, solve the problem, and then restart the video to see what the solution will be. So here's my prompt. Now, if you could, again, pause the video, solve it, and then play the video when you're ready to see the solution, that'd be great. Pause now. Okay, let's get the solution. Identify, if you like, A, B, and C. A is the number 1, because there's an invisible 1 next to the x squared. B is 4, and so is C, because there's 2 4s there. X equals negative B. That's negative 4, plus or minus the square root of B squared, that's 4 squared, minus 4AC, 4 times 1 times 4, all over 2A, that's 2 times 1. Again, some of you guys, when you're submitting work, have shown me that you're substituting the wrong numbers for ABC. Please understand that those numbers are particular to the equation. If there was a coefficient in front of that x squared, that would be the A term in the A spot. Please don't always think it's a 1. It's not. Okay, so x equals negative 4 plus or minus square root 16. And we just did a problem like this. Negative 4 times 1 times 4 is minus 16 again, all over 2. Now, 16 minus 16 is 0 over 2. We know when the discriminant is 0 that there will only be one solution. Here's the reason why again. The square root of 0 is 0. And 4 plus 0, negative 4 plus 0, and negative 4 minus 0 doesn't change the negative 4. But I'm going to make my two solutions. We'll do x equals negative 4 plus 0 over 2, and that's negative 2. And I'll show the other end also. X equals negative 4 minus 0 over 2. Again, it's still negative 2. There was only one answer. The answer is negative 2, and that's the solution to our quadratic equation. Okay, next question. Incidentally, when we do these things, and you notice how I'm solving them, and how I set up my work, and how I list my ABC, and how I show the question being solved, every step and broken down, a wise person would figure that's probably what I'm looking for when I'm grading your tests or quizzes, and that wise person would be right. Okay. Moving on to number 5. Y equals x squared plus 7x plus 6. Again, pause the video, solve the problem, and play when you're done. Ready? Pause. And welcome back. Once again, I'm going to identify A, B, C. Now, A, again, is 1. It's not always, but it is in these examples so far. B is 7, and C is 6. Again, keep in mind, if it said minus, they'd be negatives, but it didn't. X equals negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6 all over 2 times 1. Again, those numbers come from the A and the B and the C, and they have to be particular to what the A, B, and C were for this problem. X equals negative 7 plus or minus square root 49 minus 24 over 2. Negative 7 plus or minus square root 25 over 2. Negative 7 plus or minus 5 over 2. Square root of 25 is 5. And now we have it down to our branching step, because x is equal to negative 7 plus 5 over 2. Well, negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. And when I divide it by 2, I get negative 1. X could also have been negative 7 minus 5 over 2. Negative 7 minus 5 more is negative 12. And when I divide that by 2, I get negative 6. There were two solutions, which we already knew there would be because the discriminant was a positive number, positive 25. Two solutions. They're at -1 and -6. And again, those solutions tell you where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Those are the x-intercepts. All right, one more example for today. So let's see, we have y equals x squared plus 2x plus 4. Looks nice and easy. Let's hope it is. Pause, solve the problem, press play, and we'll be done. Pause now. And welcome back. So, again, A, B, C. Well, all the examples I chose today, A was the number 1. That does not mean A is always 1. Certainly does not. We've done other examples in the past where it wasn't. My B is +2. My C is +4. These are easy numbers to work with. They're nice and small and pretty not intimidating at all. X equals -2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4 all over 2 times 1 again. Okay, that's -2 plus or minus, that's 4 minus 16 all over 2. That's -2 plus or minus square root of -12 over 2. We have a problem. The problem is not because 12 is not a perfect square. That's not the problem. The problem is that it's negative. When you have a negative discriminant, you already know it means that there's no solution. Don't find the square root of 12 and round it because that's not appropriate right now. If it were a +12, by all means, take the square root of 12, round to 2 decimals, branch it apart, solve it. But you can't do that for this problem. This problem has a negative discriminant. Don't disregard that. There's no solution. And that is your answer. The answer is that there's no solution. You have to say that too. That's part of the solutions process, is that there's no solution. What does it mean? The parabola never touches the x-axis. It just doesn't cross. Okay. Well, that's it for today. I don't have homework for you. I want you to review this process so that you're comfortable with it. I'm going to give you a quiz on Wednesday. So, understand the process. Review the steps if you want to. Tomorrow there'll be more practice, but Wednesday there's a quiz on this exact thing. A short quiz, probably 2 questions for each skill. So maybe 2 discriminant questions and 2 questions where you're solving the quadratic equation. Okay? That's it. Have a wonderful day.